Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. At the beginning of my journey, I had no money, no connections, and no impressive diploma. But I had something more powerful, my attention. While many were chasing everything at once, I chose to focus. I learned in the early days of Alibaba that time and focus are more precious than gold. Most people lose the battle before they even fight because they give away their attention to distractions. And when you lose your attention, you lose control of your own story. The secret to high productivity and mental resilience isn't about doing more, but about paying attention to what really matters. It's as if every click, every notification, every unnecessary conversation is a grain of sand thrown into your mind. Slowly, what should be a calm lake turns into a desert of noise. That's why you must eliminate invisible noise, disable alerts, limit social media, and avoid people who drain your energy. It's not about being rude, it's about protecting your biggest project, yourself. When I started choosing where to place my attention more consciously, my mind became clearer. Self-awareness is the key. I learned to say no to tempting invitations, useless meetings, and even to thoughts that didn't serve me. I told my team, if it doesn't bring you closer to your purpose, it's pulling you away from it. This philosophy helped me build the mindset of a true entrepreneur, someone who cultivates focus as a daily art. There's a phrase I carry with me as a mantra. If not now, when? If not me, who? There is no perfect moment. Every minute you waste with distractions is a negative investment in your future. Success doesn't come just from effort, it comes from a directed, present, and selective mind. What separates great leaders is not how much they do, but the quality of what they choose not to do.
So today I challenge you.
Yes,
Look around.
knowing where not
What
to
is
put
draining your
energy
attention
is a silent
and sabotaging
superpower.
your evolution? Attention is the foundation of all other habits. It's the starting point of your personal growth. If you want to improve your productivity, your success habits, your self-discipline, you need to start by filtering what occupies your mind. And perhaps the greatest filter isn't outside, but in the silent choices you make every single day. When I look back, I realize that the greatest achievements of my life didn't start with big plans or brilliant ideas. They began with small, almost invisible steps. In the early days of Alibaba, we were just 18 people in a small apartment. No one believed in us, but we took small steps every day. Every simple victory, a sale, a new client, a solved problem, was celebrated like a trophy, because I knew that success is like building a wall, brick by brick. The problem is that many people want huge results without respecting the process. They want the top of the mountain, but are afraid to put on the backpack. I say, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. Transform your mindset before expecting the world to change. This is what builds true self-discipline. With every small progress, your self-belief strengthens. Real growth is quiet and consistent, not explosive and dramatic. There's powerful science behind small victories. Every achievement generates dopamine, the motivation neurotransmitter. That means your daily actions shape your mental energy, your enthusiasm, and your courage. By doing the minimum with excellence, you create a cycle of positive thinking and goal setting that naturally propels you forward. It's not about winning a championship every day. It's about winning today's practice with integrity. For years, I kept a journal, not to record epic moments, but to note small wins. This helped me stay focused on progress, not perfection. I saw those notes as reminders that great transformations come from small adjustments. You don't need to change everything now. You just need to take the next step with intention. Consistency is the biggest difference between dreamers and achievers. And when discouragement hits, because it will, think of this phrase: when you're poor, if you have a dream, you never feel poor. If you carry a vision, each step becomes power. Every small action, no matter how simple, becomes a pillar of your inner construction. Don't underestimate the value of doing the basics well. What seems small today may be exactly what prepares you for the next leap. During my life, I learned that making decisions based on what you feel in the moment can be a silent trap. There were days when I was discouraged, tired, even frustrated. But what kept me moving was my values, not my mood. When you act only according to your feelings, you become a slave to your emotions. And emotions, like the wind, change direction all the time. What truly builds an extraordinary life is the consistency of the principles you choose to live by. In my entrepreneurial journey, I discovered that values like integrity, courage, and responsibility are non-negotiable. They act as anchors in the midst of emotional storms. When everything seemed to go wrong at Alibaba, what held me steady was the clarity of what was right. Because if you let your mood make decisions for you, your life becomes a boat with no rudder. But when you anchor yourself in values, even tough days move you in the right direction. One day I asked a teammate why he was still with me, even after so many crises. He replied, "Because you don't change your principles, even when everything else changes." That marked me deeply. Today, I understand that you only become trustworthy to others when you learn to trust your own commitments to yourself. That's what feeds your self-awareness, your emotional intelligence, and your reputation in the world. Some days are dark, and on those days, it's easy to say, "Today's not the day." But real growth comes when you act even without the desire. That's where inner strength lives. Emotional discipline is what transforms ordinary talent into extraordinary leadership. Think of Olympic athletes. They don't train only when they're happy. They train because they know that daily discipline builds victories. And life is no different. That's why I began asking myself a simple question every day. What would my values do now? This type of reflection completely changes your decisions. And when you start living guided by this inner compass, everything changes. Your relationships, your productivity, your ability to inspire. Because in the end, values aren't just nice words. They're the invisible armor that sustains great achievements. From the earliest days at Alibaba, I understood that knowledge without action is just intellectual decoration. I read many books, attended lectures, listened to mentors, but I only progressed when I started applying what I learned immediately. Learning with intention is different from just studying. It's like turning on a flashlight inside the mind. You can see the next step. Without that light, you keep stumbling over the same stones, no matter how much information you consume. For years, I reserved 30 minutes a day to learn something new, but I didn't learn just to learn. Before I started, I'd ask, what can I apply from this tomorrow? That habit turned my learning into a tool for action, not just reflection. True personal development requires that kind of focus. Most people get lost because they think they need to know everything before they start. But knowledge only has value when it creates movement. I turned my way of learning into a ritual. I read with a notebook beside me, watched with questions in mind, spoke to the right people. This created a continuous learning mindset in me, but not just any learning, applicable learning. And that gave me a competitive edge. Instead of just seeming smart, I started delivering results. What sets visionary leaders apart is this ability to turn insight into impact. A book that deeply influenced me was Good to Great by Jim Collins. He teaches that companies that grow consistently are those that learn fast and act fast. I brought that into my life. When I learned to use education as an execution tool, my evolution accelerated. It's not about having more ideas, but making each idea a building block of your vision. That's what really matters in the life transformation game. After all, knowing isn't power. The power lies in those who turn knowledge into action. You can read 100 books on productivity, self-discipline, focus, and leadership. But if you don't apply what you've learned in your next conversation, your next decision, your next project, you're just stacking words. What changes the game is what you do with what you know, not just what you know. When I was rejected by 30 companies, including KFC, and denied by Harvard 10 times, it wasn't easy getting out of bed the next day, but a simple question saved me. What's the smallest step I can take right now? That changed everything. It wasn't about conquering the world. It was about beating paralysis. I discovered that the greatest enemy of big dreams isn't failure, it's not starting. And the key is to move, even just a few inches. In practice, this could mean sending an email, tidying your desk, opening a book. The size of the action doesn't matter. The impact lies in the mental unlock it creates. Clarity rarely comes before action. It comes after. That's why I learned that movement, even small, is the only real antidote to doubt. When you act, even without certainty, your mind shifts from anxiety mode into execution mode. On the hardest days building Alibaba, when everything seemed to be falling apart, I told myself, don't think about the summit, think about the next step. That simple change in focus gave me resilience. I didn't need to solve everything. I just needed to keep going. The consistency of those small steps turned into strength. It was like climbing a mountain while looking at the ground, one step at a time, with a heart full of vision. If not now, when? If not me, who? This phrase guided my decisions in moments of doubt. You don't need all the answers. You just need to begin. The next step may seem small, but it holds the power to start a cycle of progress. It's like turning a stuck faucet. The first twist is tough, but then the water flows. Life is the same. Those who start have already won the biggest battle. So if today you feel stuck, lost, not knowing where to go, stop overthinking. Choose a micro action and execute. Do this repeatedly. Discipline isn't born from big decisions, but from repeating small acts of courage. Greatness is built from tiny actions no one sees, but that bring you closer to the extraordinary life you want to create. At the beginning of my career, I realized something powerful. You don't get better alone. During the building of Alibaba, I understood that the environment around me directly influenced my ideas, decisions, and energy. That's why I was intentional about choosing who I walked with. I wanted to be surrounded by people who thought big, who had the courage to act, and above all, who lived what they preached. Because the truth is simple. Either you're being pulled up or you're being pulled down. There was a time when I felt frustrated by my lack of progress, and I realized that part of the problem was who I was sharing my days with. When I changed my circle, my vision expanded. I started seeking out mentors, leaders, books, and even videos that challenged me to go further. You don't need to know someone personally to learn from them. I learned from Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and many others just by studying their paths. If you want different results, connect with different minds. One of my favorite metaphors is, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't change the rabbit, change yourself. There's no point in complaining about the people around you. You need to change what you accept and choose. If you're surrounded by negativity, stop trying to change others and raise your own standard. Over time, you'll attract people who resonate with your purpose. This applies to everything: relationships, business, partnerships, and friendships. Notice how your energy shifts when you're around people who challenge you, who dream big, who have discipline. It's as if those people activate a new mode inside you, the possible mode. I felt that way every time I met someone who was better than me at something. I didn't feel envy. I felt inspiration. A true growth mindset is born when you surround yourself with people who are already living what you want to live. They don't judge you. They mirror you. So, If you want to change your life, start with your connections. Do a silent cleanse. Get closer to those who elevate you, even from a distance. Follow good content. Read great authors. Join groups that think big. The human environment around you is either an accelerator or a brake. Choose people who help you grow, even if that sometimes means walking a bit more alone in the beginning. Jack Ma knew that your surroundings shape your behavior. If you're surrounded by clutter, noise, and distractions, your mind becomes disorganized. That's why he was obsessed with clean, clear, and functional spaces. I've experienced this firsthand. When I walk into a space that inspires excellence, my productivity flows naturally. When the environment is chaotic, everything slows down. Decisions, focus, and even creativity. The invisible friction of a messy space can cost you your best ideas. A well-planned environment removes these silent obstacles from your day. Whether it's organizing your workspace, muting notifications, or setting boundaries for your time, everything starts to align. Jack Ma used to say, if the place where you work doesn't inspire excellence, change the place or your mindset. A self-aware person understands that their surroundings are not neutral. They either fuel or drain your energy. That's why successful people treat their environment like a tool, not just a backdrop. Think of it like this. Your environment is either your ally or your enemy. The right setup makes your productivity habits automatic. Want to eat healthier? Make fruit visible. Want to read more? Keep books within reach. Want to focus? Design a distraction-free zone. This isn't just about aesthetics. It's about engineering your success. Great leaders know how to set up their lives to support their self-discipline and goals, instead of sabotaging them. When I created Alibaba, we started in a small apartment, but we treated it like a command center. We didn't need luxury, we needed purpose. Every item, every wall, every meeting had a reason to exist. That mindset turned that humble space into a launchpad for a global empire. You don't need the perfect space, just a vision-driven setup that makes it easier to stay on track. Your environment should reflect your next level, not your current chaos. So take a look around. What in your space is holding you back? What small changes can you make today to remove friction and support your best self? Adjusting your environment may seem like a small act, but it has a profound effect on your clarity, energy, and consistency. And sometimes, the simplest shift in your surroundings can unlock a breakthrough in your journey. Despite facing countless rejections, Jack Ma never let bitterness take root in his heart. I learned to practice gratitude every single day, not just for the good things, but for the failures, the lessons, and even the setbacks. Gratitude gave me armor. It protected my motivation when everything seemed lost. Because when you train your mind to see what's working, even in chaos, you unlock a new kind of mental resilience that no crisis can destroy. Gratitude isn't just a warm feeling, it's a decision. It's a discipline. Every morning, I would write down 3 things I was thankful for. Sometimes it was a conversation, sometimes it was just a hot cup of tea. These small reflections rewired my thinking. They pulled me out of victimhood and brought me back to agency. When you're grateful, you stop waiting for circumstances to change and start leading your emotions from within. I once said, when you're poor, if you have a dream, you never feel poor. That's the power of gratitude. It lifts your eyes from what you lack to what you have. It shifts your energy from anxiety to appreciation. Even when I was surrounded by problems, I would choose to see the opportunity. Gratitude made me more creative, more courageous, and more connected with the people around me, because it reminded me that every moment was a teacher. In hard times, most people collapse inward. But if you pause and ask yourself, what is still working? You ignite a spark. That spark becomes hope, and hope becomes momentum. Gratitude is the ignition key to any life transformation. It's what keeps you grounded when you're flying high and lifted when you hit the ground. It doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means embracing perspective. Start today. What are 3 things you're grateful for right now? Let this habit grow like a seed in your mind. Over time, it will shape your identity. You'll start showing up differently, not from fear, but from fullness. Because when you build strength from gratitude, no storm can shake your foundation. And the more you strengthen this inner core, the more unstoppable your path becomes. I didn't become one of China's top entrepreneurs by being lucky. It was discipline. Many see success and think it's about talent or timing. But what really makes the difference is doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. Discipline is what makes your self-improvement real. It's the silent builder of everything visible. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. It's what separates those who talk from those who build.
People often think freedom means doing whatever you want. I believe real freedom comes from doing what must be done, with consistency. Self-discipline creates space for freedom. Freedom to choose, to create, to lead. I used to say to my team, don't wait for motivation. Train yourself to move even when it's boring. That's the hidden superpower of the success mindset, the ability to act beyond emotion. Discipline isn't a talent, it's a skill, one you can develop like a muscle. And just like a muscle, you start small. Wake up a bit earlier. Say no to a distraction. Keep one promise to yourself each day. When I began applying small routines with focus, my entire energy changed. My confidence grew. Because when you trust yourself to follow through, everything becomes possible, and your identity shifts from I try to I do. There's a quote I often repeated: great men aren't made in moments of euphoria, but in ordinary days of quiet effort. The world doesn't see the grind behind the scenes, but that's where transformation happens. It's in the early mornings, the lonely evenings, the uncomfortable choices. Those moments forge your character. They shape the version of you that can hold success when it finally arrives. So start simple. Choose one habit and master it. Let that habit rewire your standards. When discipline becomes your identity, no setback can keep you down for long. It's what bridges your dream to your reality. It's the invisible path that leads from where you are to everything you're meant to become. I chose discomfort as a strategy. That's right, I sought it. I placed myself in new situations, unfamiliar environments, and challenges that made me feel like a beginner again. Why? Because growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. I knew that to become stronger, wiser, more innovative, I had to get used to the unknown. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your greatest teacher. The growth mindset is built exactly where most people stop. Many think strength comes from avoiding pain, but real mental resilience is forged in fire, the fire of rejection, mistakes, and failure. I still remember being rejected from every job I applied for, including KFC, and from Harvard 10 times. But I didn't give up. Every rejection was fuel. Every no pushed me to find a yes within myself. When you embrace discomfort, it no longer controls you. You control the meaning it has in your story. The truth is, we grow in proportion to our willingness to be uncomfortable. When I stepped onto stages, spoke poor English, or failed in front of investors, I felt exposed. But I kept going, because I knew that if I stayed where it felt safe, I'd never become who I needed to be. The path of discomfort is the path of personal growth. It builds the version of you that can handle the life you dream of. I used to say, if I'm uncomfortable, it's a sign I'm learning. That shift in mindset changes everything. Suddenly, failure becomes feedback, fear becomes fuel, doubt becomes direction. Discomfort is not chaos, it's construction. It's life sculpting you into your next level.
But it only works if you stay present, stay humble, and keep moving. The discomfort doesn't last, but the person you become because of it does. So lean into it. Don't run from the hard conversations, the new challenges, the uncertain opportunities. That's where the gold is. That's where the transformation hides. And maybe, just maybe, that uncomfortable step you're avoiding is the exact one that will unlock the next chapter of your success.
I was never a productivity robot. I knew that without rest, there's no creation. Without pauses, there's no clarity. That's why I deeply valued sleep, hobbies, and moments of reflection. Many people think success is about going nonstop, but I believe real consistency only comes when we respect our energy cycles, both action and recovery. Self-discipline isn't just about doing more, it's about knowing when to stop and recharge. A tired mind makes poor decisions. An exhausted body sabotages itself. If you want to grow, you need recovery built into your strategy. I didn't build Alibaba by burning out. I built it by staying strong, year after year. That strength came from balance. Sometimes that meant taking a walk instead of another meeting, or spending a quiet evening instead of diving into more work. These moments of self-awareness preserved my long-term performance. People often think resting means being lazy. I think rest is preparation. A mind that breathes deeply returns sharper. A body that sleeps well moves faster. I often said, resting is not stopping, it's preparing. Even a high-performance engine needs maintenance. You are no different. If you want daily improvement and creative breakthroughs, make space for silence, for nature, for simply doing nothing once in a while. Some of my best ideas didn't come in front of a screen. They came while drinking tea, walking alone, or watching the sunset. When you disconnect from the noise, you reconnect with your essence. It's in these pauses that inspiration whispers. If you're always grinding, you might miss that inner voice that knows the next step. Balance isn't weakness. It's the secret weapon of high performers who want to sustain their success. So don't wait for burnout to learn this. Schedule your rest. Prioritize activities that renew you, like yoga, swimming, or simply reading fiction. Trust me, these aren't distractions. They're fuel. When you return from rest, you return with power. And that power is what transforms your next action into something extraordinary. There is no real growth without a mirror. I made it a habit to track my progress, mistakes, and lessons every single day. I wrote things down, reviewed my behavior, and adjusted my course, like a scientist testing hypotheses. This wasn't about guilt. It was about clarity. Because if you don't measure what you're doing, you get lost. And if you don't reflect, you repeat. Self-awareness only grows through honest evaluation. When you stop to ask, what worked today, what didn't, what needs to change, you take control of your evolution. I didn't wait for big events to reflect. I reflected on small decisions, the ones most people ignore. That's how I learned faster. Mistakes are feedback, but only when you're willing to face them head on. That's the difference between moving in circles and truly moving forward. Some people are afraid to confront their flaws, but flaws that stay hidden grow. I believe in brutal honesty, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself. When I reviewed my goals and saw I wasn't showing up fully, I didn't lie to myself. I recalibrated. That mindset allowed me to evolve rapidly. Your success is not in the intention, it's in the adjustment. And only honesty makes that possible. I'd often say, don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid of not understanding why you failed. That one shift turns failure into fuel. It turns setbacks into systems. Measuring your progress doesn't slow you down. It speeds up your learning. Because when you know where you really are, you can choose better paths to where you want to be. You stop guessing and start growing with purpose. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, what did I do well today? What can I improve tomorrow?
Write it down. Don't leave your growth to chance. Document it, track it, study it. When you build the habit of daily review, you build the habit of constant evolution. And that's when your success becomes inevitable. For me, learning was never a phase. It was a lifestyle. Even after success, I kept studying, asking, listening. I saw continuous learning as a permanent competitive advantage. I wasn't interested in collecting diplomas. I was searching for insights. I learned from mistakes, from employees, even from children. I used to say, everyone knows something you don't know. Learn from everyone. That's how you stay relevant in a world that changes faster than we can imagine. Real learning doesn't stop at school or after reading a book. It happens when you turn curiosity into a daily habit. I watched videos, listened to podcasts, and kept notes of everything that sparked my thinking. Learning wasn't something I scheduled. It was something I lived. The world became my classroom, and the more I learned, the more I realized how much more there was to know. That's the humility of the true personal development path. The key is to avoid becoming a knowledge collector. What you want is to create a feedback loop. Learn something, apply it, see the result, reflect, and then learn again. That's how you evolve at speed. Every experience, a conversation, a mistake, a success, can be a teacher if you're paying attention. The smartest people I've met aren't the ones with the best grades. They're the ones who are obsessed with growing every day.
I made it a habit to ask, what did I learn today? And then, what will I do with it? That loop kept me moving, adapting, transforming. It kept me sharp while others stagnated. In a world where technology evolves by the second, staying curious isn't optional, it's survival. The more you learn, the more adaptable you become. And adaptability is the new intelligence. So stay open. Be the kind of person who learns from every source: books, strangers, setbacks, mentors, even silence. Let your learning feed your evolution, not your ego. The moment you believe you've learned enough, you stop growing. But if you stay humble and hungry, your potential becomes unlimited. I was doubted by teachers, banks, and companies, but never by myself. I had a clear vision of what I wanted to build, and that vision carried me through the worst days. Even when there were no results, I kept going. Not because I could see success yet, but because I believed in what I was creating. Vision isn't a decoration. It's your compass when the path disappears. And it only works if you commit to it deeply. Most people give up not because it's impossible, but because they lose sight of why they started. I didn't wait for motivation or perfect conditions. I acted from belief. I used to remind my team, tomorrow will be better, but only if we start today. That mindset saved us more times than I can count. A powerful self-belief doesn't come from outside. It's built when you keep walking, even when nothing around you seems to move. I remember our first office, a tiny apartment with 18 people and no funding. We had no technology, no support, no roadmap. But we had one thing: an unwavering belief in the future we wanted to create. And that belief gave meaning to every sacrifice, every late night, every rejection. A success mindset is born from that kind of inner fire, the one that stays lit even when the world goes dark. You have to repeat your vision daily. Speak it, write it, see it. Let it burn in your imagination until it becomes real. It's not just motivation, it's programming. It's how you train your brain to ignore the noise and stay on the path. When you're deeply committed, doubt becomes quieter. And eventually, your results begin to echo what you believed in silence. So ask yourself, what's the future you believe in so much that you're willing to walk through uncertainty for it? Anchor your habits in that future. Let that vision shape your discipline, your choices, your energy. Because those who carry a strong vision don't just survive hard times. They use them as proof that what they're building is truly worth it.
Something extraordinary happened. Jack Ma, the legendary founder of Alibaba, delivered one of the most powerful messages of this decade. Not about business strategies or stock markets, but about something deeper, the mindset behind building an extraordinary life in 2025. He didn't talk from theory. Jack Ma spoke from experience, the kind that comes from being rejected by 30 jobs, turned down by Harvard 10 times, and starting one of the biggest companies in the world with no money, no tech, and no connections. What carried him through? A set of success principles that most people ignore, but that change everything when applied. Jack Ma reminded us that your attention is your greatest asset in a distracted world. That consistent small wins, not big breaks, are what build real confidence. That values must lead, not mood. That learning without application is just wasted potential. He went further, breaking the myth of motivation and showing how tiny actions defeat paralysis, how the right people shape your future, and how your environment silently drives your results. He made it personal, because it is personal. It's about you choosing to live with clarity, direction, and courage in a world full of noise. From the importance of self-discipline to the underestimated power of gratitude, Jack Ma shared how the right habits and mindset can rebuild your identity, no matter where you're starting from. In this presentation, he also explained why discomfort isn't a curse, but the classroom of all transformation. Why balancing effort with intentional rest isn't weakness, but strategy. Why tracking your progress with brutal honesty is what separates those who grow from those who repeat the same year over and over. And maybe the most powerful insight, that your vision must be stronger than your circumstances. Jack Ma believes that the future belongs to those who commit to it, not those who wait for the perfect time. Because there's no perfect time, there's only now. And what you do with it will define where you'll be 12 months from now. He left the audience in awe, not just with inspiration, but with direction. If you've ever felt stuck, distracted, overwhelmed, or unsure about your next step, this message was made for you. These aren't just ideas. They are daily tools for your personal growth, your self-improvement, your transformation. Now it's your turn. What will you do with this knowledge? The habits that shaped Jack Ma's journey aren't reserved for the lucky few. They are tools that anyone can use, but only if you apply them. Ask yourself, what small action can you take today to shift your focus, elevate your discipline, or renew your energy? How would your life look 1 year from now if you committed to the principles you just heard? Start by choosing one thing. Maybe it's protecting your attention. Maybe it's learning with intention. Maybe it's surrounding yourself with better people, or finally embracing the discomfort you've been avoiding. Don't wait for clarity. Clarity comes from action. Which point from Jack Ma's journey hit you the hardest? Was it the brutal honesty? The infinite learning loop? The mindset of small wins? Drop your favorite insight in the comments. I want to know what moved you the most. And if this video helped you, make a promise to yourself. Revisit it whenever you need a push. Sometimes, one idea, one sentence, is enough to reignite your purpose. But don't forget, videos like this can easily disappear from your feed. If you don't subscribe now, you might never find your way back here. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to make sure you don't miss any of the next lessons that can change your life. And if you want to go even deeper, don't stop here. Click now and watch our next video. Don't worry about the future, Jack Ma's abundance mindset. It will take everything you learned today and elevate it to the next level.